Hello, Blazor fans. Welcome to another Blazor Power Hour. We're going to continue building our solar power dashboard that is receiving live data from Lance's solar energy setup in Costa Rica. Started to rework how the data interacts with the application, or the application interacts with the data. So we started off by pulling or not pulling, but rather letting the MQTT broker push data to the front end, just as a proof of concept to kind of get live data on the screen, so we could see if we could actually make this work the way we wanted it to. And then once we did that, we decided, okay, we want to save the data to a database and pull the data from the database rather than let it push to the live application in the browser. One of the reasons we decided to do that is to collect data the way that we had things set up. The application would require a user to be sitting on that page because the code to collect the data was on a Blazor web page. So we're in the process of trying to move that service just to the server application itself, so it didn't have to be visiting a certain page to be collecting data. I think that's where we left off last week, but the plan was let the server collect data, put it in a database. When somebody opens a web page, it pulls at an interval from that web page. Did I summarize that pretty good, Lance?
That was absolutely perfect. Because the limitation before was like it's only getting the current values. So we can't see anything historically. We can't have any charts or anything like that. And it's just like live every second. So we've done a lot of that work last week, and we were left with the question like, how do we let this run in the background? And you can't use a scope service for that. So what?
Correct.
Yeah. So what? And for today's episode, to make things go a little smoother, I left some snippets in the code, and we'll explain it as we go through instead of us trying to pull it in off screen. And what we see here is the old one under option one, right? So the way we had it before, it's a scope service, what basically means that when the user is present, right? Because the ASP.NET backend creates an application scope for that particular instance of the user visiting the site.
Yeah, and that instance gets kind of newed up when somebody visits the page. So there's no scope unless somebody physically opens that route, and then it gets injected into that instance of the page.
Yeah,
Right?
and imagine if we did database saving there, and we had many users visiting the app, then all of these different users would be inserting live data, which would really mess things up.
That'd be bad. That's a bad thing.
So as we can see here, you can do such a thing as a background service, and it's I-hosted service, which has many implementations. In this case, we're going to do the background service, and we won't uncomment this yet, but we're just talking about it so we can understand the next step. You can see on line 26, it says add hosted service. And it's the same MQTT service type. All we got to do is go in there and inherit from background service and just implement a method that it requires. We'll take a look at that first. Oh, good, it switched for you. Make sure I get the right zoom level here. So yeah, at the top, it's the wrong one. Oh, here it is. Okay. So yeah, at the top we see the existing one, right? So we had just a disposable regular class that doesn't implement anything other than just have an async dispose method. So the alternative to this, to make it work as I'm just going to comment that out. And then uncomment. The alternative version. Let's get rid of these extra topic names, which we don't need right now. Fit everything on the screen. All right, so here's the critical part, right? We are implementing the background service. And what it requires, part of its interface, is that we implement a method called execute async. So when ASP.NET spins up the app is running, it goes through program and it sees, oh, you need a hosted service, which means this is going to be running in the background with no scope. Right? So it's always running there. There's no particular scoped users. And the first thing that happens is this execute async method gets called. And the only thing we really did between this and last time, all of this subscription stuff that we've discussed in earlier episodes, we had in a public method that said subscribe. So now we're having just the app do that work for us. And another major difference is the got message. So before, this is the thing that we had running in the views. So it would subscribe to the message, and in the views, it would update the UI. And the very cool thing about this is you might be thinking, okay, you have a database service that needs a scope, but this background service has no scope. How are we going to deal with this? So inside the got message method, we process it like we usually do, right? It just goes through, it looks at what topic it is, and then it updates those particular values. But we need to add it to the database. So a cool trick you can do is you just get a temporary scope for that database service. And this allows us to add this particular new item that came into the database. So in the background, every time there's an update, it gets added to the database. And this kind of solves all the problems. Now that we have this class here, let me get rid of the old one so it's nice and clean. These we can talk about later. I had some questions for you guys, but they're not being used right now. I was wondering just some architectural stuff. We'll come back to this later. These are usually like on the view page, but I'm wondering if we can hook into them. We'll come back to that after. Everything else is identical. So now in program, we can comment the old way of doing it and uncomment the new way. And this really is, like how much work was that really to switch the approach? And this is the main difference. All right, so now we've got the service that starts up when the app starts running, and we figure out what do we do now, right? So the user visits the website, and how are we going to get data from that? So instead of hooking into the MQTT service, we just look at the database. So let's go take a look at the home page. And here we no longer need the MQTT service like before. We're only injecting the database service. And when the page loads up, we can, where did it go? Right here. In our get values method, we say, okay, database, get me all the data points, in this case, for the last 2 minutes. And of course, this only happens once when the page loads. So Ed and I were discussing, like, how do we do a timer? And it turns out that, what was it, the Blazing Copy demo?
Yeah. At demos.telerik.com, we have it's a demo that pulls data from a fictitious stock ticking service.
So I use that approach, and instead of this only being called once when the page first loads, we'll implement a timer. And that's kind of what this other stuff down here is. So I'll put that up there. I'll explain as I paste. So we have a token, a cancellation token. This is, whenever you have a long-running task, .NET Task has a way for you to tell that long-running task to cancel itself. It's done through this cancellation token, and the cancellation token source is the owner of that token. You'll see how it's used in a moment. And to start, we can make this a user set property, but I found every 2 or 3 seconds seems to be just right. We're not querying too fast, and it shows pretty good data. And of course,
this timer is one thing that I like about Blazor is that we can run a .NET timer. Like it's not some JavaScript thing that we had to go look up because we're on the front end now. Like we're using just C# and things that you would normally use in C#.
And it was a lot simpler than I was expecting. So basically, we have a toggle timer. Well, let's just only do the tick part, right? So we're used to timer tick. And I will put that, let's say we'll put it right here in between on after render. And it's basically just a while loop that checks for the cancellation token. And while the cancellation token is not asking for cancellation, it will wait our interval, which is 2 seconds. It'll fetch the data again from the database, the last 2 minutes, and then trigger a state has changed. It's basically the straightforward way of doing it. We don't have any tricky timer objects or anything. And it's all task-based so that it can be easily canceled, and it is very async friendly.
Yeah, and that state has changed. That's required because the user isn't like clicking a button or doing anything like that to tell Blazor that the page needs to be updated. So when you're using a timer, you have to use state has changed to let the front end know there's something in the UI that has to be updated.
The other part of this is we want to change the way that on after render is done. So I'm going to replace our existing on after render. What do you think is best practice, to put the base on after render before our code or after our code?
People usually put it after.
Yeah, I always see it in examples afterwards. I feel like on Microsoft's documentation.
I don't think anything happens by default within on after render async, so you can even
it's not that consequential.
Yeah, I think it's just a placeholder for the event that takes place there, but I don't think it does anything when you call base. I don't think there's any code inside that call.
Yeah, some frameworks do and some don't, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you overrode the page type and you have your own in there, it's still the best practice to make sure that the base one gets sent.
Yeah.
So yeah, the difference here is we are just instantiating our token, right? So when the page first loads, it says here's a good valid cancellation token source, and it will have a cancel token in it. Then by default, we just start the timer right away, and we call this method that does the timer work. Now, is timer running is something we can act on. So the very last thing I did here is I just put a toggle switch in the UI that lets the user turn it off. So let me just go put that in there really quick. And if I do that, make sure I do this so I don't have a problem. And the toggle timer task just checks, is the timer running? If it is, oh, I had it backwards. Good thing I caught that now. So if the timer is not running, let's say it's false.
Those always catch me too.
Yeah. If it's false, then we create a new token. If it's true, then we cancel. Wait. I think I had it right the first time.
Second guessing.
Yeah,
yourself.
because the value gets changed before the toggle switch. Yeah. It's funny how, like, you can have all these complicated things floating around in your head, and then a simple bool throws you out. So this is the why is that? On my side, the syntax looks give me an error for is timer running. Maybe I need to compile it. Is timer running?
I don't know if you have two uninitialized asyncs in there either. Like I did notice earlier you had a duplicate.
Ed, I think your volume might be turned up a bit. I think the service is auto adjusting you, but when you start talking, it's kind of loud.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on 8.
I don't know what's happening.
Maybe it needs to be.
Do you hear that too?
Is putting it louder helping?
Sounds the same.
Yeah,
to
I
me.
didn't do it.
I'm thinking maybe it's overcompensating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so low that it felt like it had to boost it. So now it doesn't have to boost it.
I was getting Barry Manilow Ed. I'm like, oh.
I don't know how it got set that low. Windows can do some weird things sometimes.
So I guess, Ed, I'm gonna let you take over like the deployment part here because I'm not seeing the compilation.
Some stuff here. So it came up with an error on get data async. So that doesn't seem to be
should be
implemented.
get values.
Okay. There we go. So that resolves that error. And then, okay, there's one on after render. It looks like you deleted the other one. There were 2 of those a minute ago. Let's try that. If sometimes if there's like a compilation error in one of the components, it kind of triggers like a cascading failure all the way across the board. So let's see how there's like a million errors here. Let's see if some of those clear up by fixing that component. Oh, and there's still a lot.
Okay, using statement. I only see 3 on my side, so that's probably just.
So MQTT service is not being found. Let's make sure. Ooh, it can't. Okay, so it doesn't see it at all.
Let's go back over to the service.
Services, MQTT services here.
I fixed it. All right, say it again.
Okay.
To avoid conflict, it was called MQT Service 2.
Little version control there.
Yeah.
Let's try that now. That should clear out a bunch of those errors. Still some. No argument given that corresponds to.
I only see 1.
Yeah, there's something wrong in this here. Let's see. It's like random red lines throughout this. Namespace services does not exist. Says it there too.
Oh wait, there's a problem there too. Program there's that the first one should be DB service. 1 second here.
Lance, did you and Ed both work on this individually off the air, and we've just mixed it together live here? We're running into issues.
Pretty much what happened is like yesterday I was prepping for today's shows to get the code snippets in there, but I don't mess with our live app because I want us to be able to walk to it. So I have this second proof of concept app that I make sure the code works in, and some things are named slightly different. Here, give that a shot. One of the DB services missing. Services.
That's still the same. App does not exist in the current context. It's really just nuking. Let's try doing a quick clean.
It might need a rebuild.
Let's do one more thing just for sanity's sake. I'm going to open in File Explorer. This is an old Blazor troubleshooting trick if you've never seen it. I want to go into my app. I'm going to delete the bin and object folders here, and that will cause it to regenerate all the components and nothing is cached. Okay, so it did clear up some errors. So app does not exist in the current context is the final one.
I think
here.
you have to make, if you change, go to your error list and then change it from build in IntelliSense to just build. You see that drop down right there? Yeah, build only. All right, there's a real error.
Okay.
Home.message and background service. So that's line 40. What's the issue we have on line 40? Starting sync.
Oh, it's missing the cancellation token. There's an argument that's required there. So do we have a cancellation token in this context?
It is. It's cts.token. Yeah,
it's not coming up.
Oh.
Do you need to bring the?
Oh, so that whole section shouldn't be there. Delete line 37 to 41. I think we were gonna try to make it 37. Yeah, that shouldn't be there at all. Because we originally were going to try to get the service to work inside this scope, but it's only once. So that's one thing that we had left over from last week. Okay.
It's weird. There's still,
but there's one thing left.
IntelliSense errors.
Home.message on homerazor.cs. Line 23.
The compiler's just like not happy here. Like,
yeah, the error's not there.
All over the place.
Go to homerazor.cs. That's where the last error is on line 23. It's saying. It says warning: the field home message is not there.
Home message.
It built for me. Like when you just built it, it said succeeded.
Yeah, it built for me too. The errors are all IntelliSense. Signed but never used. That's just a warning.
Yeah, it's a warning. Okay.
So like we could essentially just delete that. But I mean, let's try running it. It's probably one of those things we just close and reopen, and Visual Studio will fix itself.
Host environment.
Values are not set in the
yeah, you should have some user secrets, right? Where's your user secrets?
Why is do we want to display those on air or not?
Yeah, I made them temporary.
Okay.
They are
manage user secrets.
Yeah, that's correct. So
the value's there. It's not case sensitive. Is it case sensitive? Let's see. So on yours, you might have it uppercase, and ours is lowercase.
You know, we can probably fix this with a regular constructor. I was trying to keep it neat. And then set it in the constructor like we did last time.
Oh yeah, there's an underscore. So you made a small change there to the schema. So let's try running that again. And then if this keeps blowing up, we'll just restart Visual Studio. I think it's
working for me. So you see the output? The output is good. Now, okay, it's working. Good. By default, it's querying. So if you pull up the console window, that should be floating around somewhere. Yeah, not the browser one, but yeah. So right now in the background service is running, and it's all those values are being saved to the database, independent of the UI. So we're in a perfect position now in the UI to say, okay, database, give me the last 2 minutes of data, and let's show that. So I can see the live values working right now. So every 2 seconds.
And then our toggle button doesn't seem to be working. So we might need to revisit that.
Side. Yeah. Let you Blazor wizards fix that problem. So the toggle button basically just it should start as default, Here, I'll disconnect my side. So it's easy.
Yeah, I'm going to close Visual Studio anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the issue. I think the language service is out of sync with the compiled
Wonder if it's
code or
competing with
something.
mine too, because I've seen some
Yeah, it
weird
could
stuff
be
happen.
live share. Sometimes it's when you sync branches on GitHub too. I've noticed a lot of weird anomalies show up when you're syncing branches. Whether it's even remote or local, like if you just swap branches a lot, it'll hang it up.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of changes, I think, for it to process that language service that's running in the background. It's basically got another compiler checking everything.
Hi, Dokinu. Clean. Yeah, that's basically what we were going to do, but looks like it needed to.
Yeah, we did the clean and we did a rebuild, and that didn't do it. So it looks like it's working now.
Yeah.
So that ran, and then also our output doesn't have, or error list. I mean,
Buy a new machine.
back on. Yeah, that was it. That was it. So
Yeah.
the way I understand that the Visual Studio works with this stuff is there is the compiler that you can run, and there's the compiler that you can run on the command line. You can run the compiler from within Visual Studio, and then there's the Roslyn that's running with the language service. And at one point, those were all three independent compilers. Like they were not tied to one another, and they even got to be on different versions at one point. And I don't know what they're doing these days, but I remember when they were on different versions and you could hit build inside of Visual Studio, it would completely fail. Then you could go to the command line and run build, and it would run. And it would frustrate me to no end. So I don't know if it's still like that, but it definitely got out of sync. And it's showing, okay, that's a change. That's not an error. I saw a red
I
mark.
think we're in good shape, except for maybe the toggle button. You can review my GUI code, make sure it's working like we expect.
Another thing that we might want to do here in home.Blazor is this is using a timer, and those timers can be a loose resource. So we probably want to do an iDisposable here and cancel that timer. So we'll go ahead and implement the interface there. Oh, it won't auto jump to it. Let's see here.
So it's not an actual
Looks
timer
like it made
object.
it in another file.
Oh, here it is.
Oh.
That was weird, right?
So it's not a timer?
No, but what you can do is you can cancel it by calling CTS cancel async.
Yeah.
So inside your dispose method.
Cancellation token. And then where is the actual timer? It's on after render or on initialize?
On after render is when we start it by calling interval data update, because it's really just a while loop and not a .NET timer.
Oh, okay. You didn't use the timer. All right.
So if you call CTS cancel, it will stop this loop. So that might be something we can do.
We still probably want to do that just because we don't want that running in the background somewhere by accident. There's some strange things that can happen. Say you've got your application up. Let's just pretend that this MQTT service screen is like the app running in the browser, and you go over to this, this route, and then you come back to this route, and then back and forth, and like you're opening, different pages in the app. As you're routing around the app, it's constructing and deconstructing these, disposing these pages. And if you've got background services running, you can kind of pile up just garbage that's floating around if you're not disposing of it. Things like timers are really bad. So if you can cancel and make sure that you're not using resources, it's a best practice. So we'll just go ahead and cancel that token in here. So what was the
CTS
cancellation?
dot cancel. And it has an async overload, but this should be fine. You should always check for null here.
Oh,
So this is going to be
nullable.
yeah.
So we'll go ahead and just dispose that one. We could do the dispose async as well. There was an issue with it in the past with Blazor. I think they resolved that in .NET 8, but we'll just leave it like this. Should be fine.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that that stops, we'll go ahead and cancel it.
So I guess to make sure that the cancellation token is working, we can use the toggle button because it's the same method call to the cancellation token source. So if you depress the toggle button when it's running and it stops doing updates every 2 seconds, then we know that once you dispose the page, it should work.
Okay. And so when we toggle the timer, we're going to check if the timer's running. If the timer is running, we're going to
We want to
null
cancel it.
cancellation token, create a new one.
Yeah. Because this is the thing, right?
It.
So if this timer is true, then we want it to be running. If it's false, we want it to cancel. So how fast does that value toggle for false or true from the UI when you click that button? Because I used a toggle switch before, and the toggle switch actually passes the value as a method parameter. So I could be assured that that argument was always the correct value at the time that I used it. But here, if you push the toolbar toggle button, is it going to be true or false before when that code runs? Because it's said to is selected. Do you know what I mean? Like, because
so
what order of operations happens here? The selected get first, then we know the value's right inside the toggle timer method. If it takes,
you could, if you wanted to pass that value, you could.
Oh, let's do that. It's much better.
You could do this and say, we're going to toggle the timer, and then we want his timer running to be passed as a value.
Okay, I think we still have the same problem here, though, right? Because when the toggle button's internal logic changes, is timer running? Is it the post button click, or would this execute too soon? Right. So the order of operations internal to the control, it should change. Is timer running first to the value of toggled or not toggled, and then execute on click?
It would happen after the button is clicked.
Okay, then we don't have to pass the value. Yeah. So if we go back to the code,
what
if
we're not doing in here is I don't see is timer running being set to anything.
That's what the thing is. I think, is that the responsibility of the button?
No.
No.
The button is just raising the click event.
Yeah. You could set it in the on click the way Ed was doing it, I think.
Okay, then we would do that at the end of this. So after the else block, we do is timer running equals opposite is timer running. I mean, bang. So is timer running equals, yeah.
Oops. I typed it like you said it, which is weird.
Right.
Because, oops, and I'm comparing it again. There we go.
Okay, this solves the problem that I was worried about. All right. So basically, if it's true, we'll have to flip it now, because if when this executes, let's imagine it's already pressed. Let's say it's already true, right? It's true. The user clicks it. When it goes through that method, it'll be going from true to false. So we would need the opposite of the logic inside the method. The if statement backwards. Do you know what I mean? So right here, we want to do the opposite. So if is timer is running, then we want to cancel it. If it is not running, then we want to new it up. So I guess you just do the bang operator there.
And Mr. Bigu, no, I don't think there's a selected changed. I was trying to look. There's an on click, and I think that is.
There's a selected changed.
Is there a
for the
selected
toggle.
changed?
Yeah. For the toggle button, I don't know if the toolbar toggle button is different.
Oh,
Actually.
okay. I think
let me look at that.
toolbar toggle button might be different. I don't see anything coming up in IntelliSense. So let's try this and see if it's working.
So I see. It's really a button that highlights or shows its state based on the binding of selected. That should fix it now. So let's wait 2 seconds. We should see a data update somewhere. Yep. Okay.
Okay, just
And
update
turn
it.
it off. And the highlight didn't change. Maybe I need to bind it.
Yeah, probably. And I don't see it updating anymore.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it looks like it's steady. So now you are binding to is timer running is selected.
Do we need to call the UI update here, or does the click button do that automatically?
No, the button does that automatically.
And would it help to app bind selected to just keep it?
If we do app bind selected, then
we don't need to toggle it in the method.
Yeah, that means that the binding is going to handle the selected event, and we're manually handling the click event. So I don't think we want to do that, because that wouldn't let us do our custom code we're returning on and off the actual timer logic. So we want the on click event. What I'm not understanding is why the selected, let's just write this thing out for a second, is timer running. Just write it straight to the UI here, just so I can see the value of it, make sure it's actually being toggled and not something else. So false right now, just went true. Saw that?
Yeah.
And the button didn't change. So off.
Okay, so it is saying off, so that means the value did change. We're just not seeing a color change. So is the color not supposed to change?
Oh, wait. Selected. No, it is a bool value. Is timer running is a bool value.
Are we expecting it to go gray or not?
Let's try this. Let's see what happens if we hard code it. I want to see the state, what it looks like. Yeah, it does have a grayed out value there.
Yeah.
Why does it seem like it's not binding is timer running value then?
So it's not getting property changed updates, which maybe we do need bind for, and then we can adjust the logic inside the method. We just don't.
Yeah, and you just get rid of
that last line. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at bind selected.
And then in the function, comment out the flipper.
Oops, forgot we have a code bind.
Yeah,
so
comment
then we
out
don't need
that.
Yeah. And then save it all and rerun. And Mr. Bigu, that is the normal toggle button. This is actually the toolbar toggle button, which for some reason is slightly different.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well.
Nice.
Hey, there you go.
Okay, cool. So it wasn't at bind. You're right, Justin. My apologies.
Oh, it's all good.
I was thinking it would override. So I guess there has to be a selected event then.
Yeah, I think I saw a selected and unselected, but then we would have separate functions for each instead of having it in one.
In that case, we would use the not bind method.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But this works, right?
Yeah, this did work.
And the only other thing I added here was just a couple observable collections that we can put data into. But I don't want to jump ahead.
Okay. So what should we do next?
Go to the
Update
Razor
to-
again.
yeah. So in home.razor.
Yep. Scroll down. I have a commented out tile item
Oh.
with some charts in there.
Ah, came prepared too.
Yeah. Now go to Home Razor CS, and at the bottom I have a couple observable collections. Well, don't uncomment those yet. We need to keep going.
Not that one.
Yep.
This one.
Yep.
There we go.
And
then do we need these?
yeah, I would
No.
take them all up there, even if we're not using it yet.
And then we've got some squiggles here. Do we
But
need
it's outside of the class too. You're gonna have to just cut and paste it up into the fields. Like all that code is outside of the home class.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So take this. And then somewhere at the top here, or
Yeah, probably like right above, in between tile layout and the other backing fields. Right there would be a good spot. Yeah. And now we add the. So observable range collection is mine. Do you have my NuGet package there? No.
no.
Okay, just go to add the NuGet package common helpers. This is one of my libraries that has so many pieces of code that I've rewritten over the years, hundreds and hundreds of times. And it's things like MBBM, collections, behaviors, converters, that kind of stuff. So super handy for situations like this. Now that would resolve if you add the using statement to the code behind.
Just gonna share this in chat real quick.
Yeah. My next phase on that is I'm adding Maui helpers to it. So things that are in the .NET Maui namespace, like their UI kind of bound stuff that is not .NET standard. Can go. So not only do I have an observable range collection, which lets you insert ranges, it pauses the the property collection changed event. Let's say you had 10 items, right? You insert 10 items into an observable collection. It's going to trigger 10 separate collection changed events. Instead, the observable range will I pause the notifications, insert all 10 items, and then resume the notifications. So if you had like a list, it would just update once. It's much more efficient.
Excellent.
And you can also have a maximum count. So the maximum count, if you reach over that value, it takes out the oldest item.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that a lot. I was actually looking for that one day. I can't remember what I was building, but I looked for it, couldn't find it, and ended up giving up on it because it's a little bit of code to write that.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a simple thing.
Yeah, so that does maximums and it'll handle all notifications. I also have observable queue collection, which is the same as that, except it's a first in, first out.
Okay, very nice.
Okay, so the last thing we need to do is go to the get data method, and we need to uncomment the lines that add items to those collections. You're already there. Just scroll down. Yeah. Keep going a little farther.
Let's see. Why is it not listed? Get data is not in.
Seriously, we didn't change the name of it. It's there. It's a little farther down.
Why is it not showing up?
Get values. That's
okay.
it. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So now we'll see some commented out part there. So I have a for each that we'll talk about that after we do it. Yeah. So what we do is we just take that we pulled in items is a list of everything that we just call from the database. And I'm saying just take 60 of them. For now, we could always do them all, but it was just because I don't know how much information is going to be in there. We could probably get rid of that after. But all we do is we get the topic name. And if it's one of the 4 or 5 things that we are having charts for, then we add a chart item. So those are directly bindable to charts.
Okay. We need to add like a null safety thing here. Topic may be null. So is there like a default?
I would say, I think it's called unknown. Case do topic name dot unknown. Yeah, that's
Nice.
the catch-all one.
Um,
It's because my method doesn't
oh,
have.
is this returning a string or is it returning?
It's a topic name object.
It's a topic name
Yeah.
object. That's weird.
No.
I thought
It might be it's saying item is going to be null and then it won't get topic.
well, let's undo that and see. The actual error said cannot be applied to type string and topic name.
So,
So
item
topic
is a
here
string.
is a string. It's a
Yeah.
nullable string.
Oh, okay. So we need to return a string inside this function. So
Yeah.
that would be go to the topic helper class and it'll show what gets converted to that. No, not here, but like actually in the
Yeah.
UI in Visual Studio.
Topic. Is this topic helper?
Yeah.
Nope.
So which one returns? Scroll down to the bottom of that one. Okay, I don't actually have one. If it doesn't match, it'll say unknown. It throws the exception, but I thought we fixed that out of range exception.
Apparently not this version.
Yeah.
All right.
So I guess you could
we'll
return
just
unknown or just an empty string.
It's going to throw an exception anyway, right?
Yeah.
So let it throw. Let it throw.
And the only other thing that a viewer might be wondering about right now is I have this other class, right? There's an MQTT chart data item instead of MQT item. It's because the Telerik charts use like integers and different category values. So this is just an object that makes it easy to convert the MQTT data stuff into something that can be easily plotted in the UI. So there's a string for the category, there's a value, and there's a date time. And those three things let us lay out a line series or any kind of series.
Is this the one you're talking about?
Yep.
MQT or chart MQTT data item. Yeah, this is just a nice, easy data binding then.
Yep.
So you don't have to do all the mapping within your component. So we should be able to run this, right? Nope. Womp womp. What did it break on? So it's failing.
System power chart ref. That's I didn't
context.
Yeah, I didn't give it a name behind it.
Okay, so we have a chart that has an at system power chart ref here, but there's no backing property for it here. So where's all of our other ones at? Just add it to that.
Yeah.
It's a Telerik. What kind of chart is this one?
I forget what it's called in Blazor.
I can just look.
Yeah, Cartesian. Just Telerik chart.
Is it just Telerik chart?
Okay.
Yep. Drop that ref off or the at symbol off of there. And we're good. There we go.
I think I have a reference for it because like when you resize the UI, it does a layout update or something.
Yeah, that looks like it worked. And there's the chart.
Of course, there's only 2
did we not
minutes.
collect? I was going to say we didn't collect enough data.
Yeah. The other thing we need
really
to do
much.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to see the lines until we can keep running it and let it collect data in the background. And then we extend it 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Before you do that, though, you see atop of the chart, I have these 3 string values there: charging source, priority, solar. So these are 3 more things in the code behind that we just need to subscribe to. And we haven't done it yet because they're not numerical. One says, are we using the solar panels or are we using the grid for a power source? And the other one says, what is the battery's preference for being charged? Normally, you only want to charge the battery from the solar panels. But what if there's a big storm coming, right? What if there's no clouds, the cloudy out, and there's a big storm coming, and you want your battery to be at full charge? you can tell it to use the grid. All right, we're starting to see some data come in. Nice.
Looks good.
Yeah.
I like it.
And it's done all in watts, so it's kind of easy. I didn't want to do like a kilowatt conversion because it's usually within a couple thousand watts anyways. So those are the line 23 and 24. You see the two new. So I think you might want to convert them to how
these two.
you have your other fields so that it's consistent. In my app, I had them as like properties. Doesn't matter for you. Like scroll down to your other properties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like I already put them there. I already did it for you. All right. So delete 40 and 41.
Okay.
Well, we do need to make sure that those are being used in the UI. So make sure that inverter is referenced in the UI
It
correctly.
does not look like it.
So if we go back to the tile item, it should be at the top. Oh, there it is, line 135. Yep. Oh, they were already working, so I didn't have to worry about it. They weren't the default values.
Okay, so these come across as actual HTML.
I'm not like, this is what I need you guys' expertise for, right? So how would you want to show that string value in the UI? Could we do it as a regular string? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's just a string, then we can just do the @ symbol here.
Yep.
And say inverter mode. Markup string is when you have HTML coming from, say, a database.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things that you should use with some extreme caution, because once you put that on your page, it opens it up to injection, like security stuff, code injection.
Yeah. And I just want to double check that we're setting those values. So if we go back to the get data method, you can let it run and collect data in the background. So where we're saying get data or get values.
Get values. Get values.
So load power, battery charge percent, battery inverter mode, and charger source priority. Perfect. Okay, so we're getting the actual values.
If we go over here, yeah, those are showing up. Solar only, it says battery / solar. And then I noticed we had collected enough. I guess there was a time that it was down, that it didn't go back.
This would be something to investigate, like
far enough to pick up, or
60 items. Well, we can look at that code that is doing the for loop, right? Should we even be doing that in every get data, or should we just add one item to the collection? You see what I'm doing there? So I just take that batch of data we got from the database. I take 60 of them, and then I create a collection. Also, that shouldn't be add, because we should clear the collection before we add items to it again, kind of thing. So there's still some work to be done there on the best practices to update that series.
Okay. All right. Yeah, one thing we'll kind of close out on just some ideas we were riffing before the show too, is I was asking, like, what other values are you collecting that could maybe help us predict what like the next hour of charging might look like, or something like that. I'm thinking we might be able to throw a little ml.net at it at some point. So let's see if I even have this in here. Yeah, I don't know if you've experimented with this at all, but I'm writing about something right now, and I've done this before. You could come into your project and hit add and hit new machine learning model, and you get this nice wizard that it walks you through. We'll just keep it ML configuration right now. And then we could say we want to predict a value, and we're going to train on our desktop, and then we can even connect to SQL Server. I don't know if this is going to work with our SQLite or not. Let's see. Data provider. Looks like it's only.
Oh, we can switch it to
server.
I have one built just for this purpose. So
we could also just run a report and dump it to a CSV file. Either way would work. There's an other. I don't know if any of these will work, but let's just see. Yeah, that's good. not work, I don't think.
Yeah, because it's going to want an MDB. Like you can have SQL
Yeah.
file, but it won't be a SQLite file.
But you could easily just export to a CSV file, and then we could grab that and run training on it. When you do that, you'll get like what's it called, like a spreadsheet view in here, and it lets you look at like a preview of the data, and then you select like what it is you're trying to predict, like what would be helpful for this application. Like predicting like the battery charge or something like that might be interesting. And then
I
we
think that's a
basically
great idea.
Based on like the weather forecast or something.
yeah, weather and current like inputs like load power, PV power, that type of thing, and then we could predict what the battery charge is going to be over the next hour or something, and we could put that in a service and run it as well. So we could have like on our dashboard, we've got let's run this one more time.
Yeah, you know why that would be awesome? Because we would want to know whether it's financially worth it to charge the battery from the grid or not. So the model will
Yeah.
predict like, oh, we're going to run out of battery in 2 hours, and this storm lasts 3 hours.
Yeah, we might be able to do something like that where we're predicting the battery percentage. There's other models too, but that's the one I'm most familiar with, is predicting a value. So we might be able to do that. I've got a dashboard that I'm building that's very similar to this one that recreates the wizard that you step through with the model builder, which I can delete from this project when I'm done here. But this wizard here, once you're done training it, there's some steps that you want to go back through as you like fine tune it, but you don't want to like start from scratch again. And I've got a dashboard that I've cooked up to do that, and then analyze the efficiency of that model. So it'll be an interesting project too when I'm done with it. We
I
could
see two
maybe
there.
reuse it here.
I see the
What's that?
value prediction and forecasting. Which one would
Oh, there we go.
Which one is it?
Predict future values based on a previous observed series of values. Yeah, that might be the better model. So value prediction is just one. Forecasting is going to be multiple, it looks like.
Makes sense.
So we would be predicting, not just the battery percentage, but something else in our scenario here.
Yeah, we could have a ton of fun on this.
Or it could be a series of values. I have to look into this one and see. Maybe I could find some samples on it, but it might be the next 10 battery percentage values or something. I have to see exactly how that model works. There's a lot of cool stuff there, though.
Yeah, because the battery percentage goes up and down over the course of the day, and that'd be a good litmus test that it says, oh, we know that the battery does this while the sun goes overhead. That'd be very cool.
Another thing that's really neat, and it won't show up in the model trainer that I just showed you there, but once you're done training and you retrain it through code, you can then do some data transformations on it, and it will tell you which of the inputs greatly affects the prediction. So we've got like load power, battery, grid, etc. It would tell you which one of these influences the outcome of that battery percentage the most.
What do you guys think? We can merge this into main now, take it off the experimental branch?
Let's do that.
Yeah, do it.
Let's write a commit. I've got a new toy in the toy box here. So on my git changes, see the little pencil icon? Generate commit message with Copilot. So I'm going to let the Copilot go through the code here and figure this out for me so I don't have to do it. So it is generating a message using generative AI.
Nice.
And
Look at that.
there is our commit message. Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah.
Just made my day a lot easier.
Yeah.
So we'll hit accept there, commit all, and boom. We are committed on reworking the database. Go ahead and sync that up. We want to push that into the main branch.
Yeah, I think the experiment went pretty well, and we no longer tied the MQTT service to the user lifecycle.
All right, so on main here, I'm going to say, oops, I want to take rework database and merge it into current branch. And we are good to go. We'll go ahead and push that one up. And I think if you're not hearing robot noises right about now as I'm syncing all of these things, I think my new connection is working good for the show. All right, guys. I think we'll wrap this up for today. We'll see you again next week.